Hi, very good morning. It's 10:30 sharp, and let's start the meeting. I hope I'm perfectly audible and visible to all of you. Kindly confirm.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Perfect. Perfect. Any questions from yesterday's sessions? Not only yesterday's, maybe the previous sessions also. If you have any questions, you can ask me now. Or if you have any thoughts, observations, perspectives, views, please tell me. If you don't have, we can do a kind of quick recapitulation of what we have done in the last class. So that it's a kind of not only a good reminder, but also a kind of good connect with today's class. So the first two sessions were spent in the business retention, where I have discussed the multiple retention analytics techniques. And the next two class, that is the third and the fourth class, are dedicated for customer acquisition, where I discussed in the yesterday's class or last class is about the segmentation. In the context of segmentation, if you recall, we started with a use case, what was done in a bank regarding their customer segmentation. In fact, besides the customer segmentation, we also covered yesterday the logistic regression. So if you have any questions from logistic regression, you can also ask me now. That was a hands-on session, and I assume you practiced it in your choices, software, language, whatever you wish. In the segmentation, we covered the use case, and after that, we discussed two things: the concept of service and the concept of product or a platform. And subsequently, I walked you through a product in the segmentation area and how the product displays or exhibits the different kind of outputs as desired by the user. So that was a brief, or that was the nutshell in yesterday's class. You have any questions? If not, let me share my screen. And today I'm going to cover three things. Number one, I'm going to walk you through a segmentation exercise or a problem, how it's been done in a real life situation. Number two, I'm going to walk you through the recommendation algorithms, how a recommendation engine works. And last but not the least is about the target marketing or the purchase likelihood. What kind of algorithms like propensity modeling, what are the limitations of propensity modeling, how uplift modeling takes care of that limitation, that I'm going to discuss. So that's the agenda for today's class. So I'm sharing my screen. Let me know if you can see my screen. Is my screen visible to all of you?
Yes, sir. Yes.
Perfect. So I'm going to walk you through an example of cluster analysis, though you have seen a kind of use case already, but this is more from the perspective of how to do it. But again, from the how to perspective, don't focus on where I'm clicking. That really doesn't matter because software, as I mentioned, really doesn't matter. What really matters is that how to interpret. You observe where I'm focusing during the operations, where means not the clicking part, but the interpretation part, irrespective of the language or the software you are going to use for accomplishing cluster analytics, the interpretations will remain the same. It won't vary. And the more in-depth your interpretations are, the more clear you are regarding the interpretation, the better would be your hold on the subject. So with that note, let me walk you through what it is. You can see there are 15 variables I have considered, and this is more of a kind of consumer behavior clustering. That means I'm clustering folks based on their behavior. So I have taken the variable one represents I prefer to use email rather than write a letter. I feel the quality products are always priced high. I think twice before buy anything. Television is a major source of entertainment. A car is necessity rather than a luxury. I prefer fast food and ready-to-use products. So in all these 15 statements, the consumers are asked to rate them on a 5-point Likert scale. So I've given a kind of representative 20 consumers data, and each of these 20 consumers have have shown or expressed their views in a 5-point Likert scale. So to clarify further, if this is consumer 1, consumer 2, consumer 3 up to consumer 20, I'm having, and each of the consumers say in the first variable, which is I prefer to use email rather than write a letter, and where 1 represents strongly agree. So consumer one has given 1 for variable 1. It means consumer 1 strongly agrees, yes, he or she prefers to use email rather than a letter. So that's about the data set. Ladies and gentlemen, I don't know whether you are aware about the different steps of accomplishing a business analytics project. Though that was not a kind of planned in this session, but I thought since I'm giving you a kind of overview of data understanding, in this context, I must also give you a overview of the different steps uh, of the commonly used practices in the industry. What are the different steps in a data science or analytics projects? Uh, if I say you straight away, you may try to remember. Why don't we co-create knowledge? What do you think should be the first step? What do you think should be the first step in accomplishing a business analytics project? Tell me your views. You need not have any kind of knowledge beforehand to answer this. Just think and answer whatever comes to your mind.
It's a problem statement.
Quite, quite correct in the context of more of a research. So whenever we do any kind of business research, we start with business problem. You are absolutely correct from that perspective. That's a very important perspective, let me tell you. And finally, once I cover everything, I shall show you the diagram also for that. So it is easier for you to remember and recapitulate. So whenever you are doing any business analytics project, please remember you have to work in a particular domain. What do I mean by domain? It is in a particular industry. It can be a healthcare domain. It can be aviation. So at one point of time, SpiceJet was my client, and I did their fuel analytics project. Why I'm giving the example? There is a reason. Now, to do a fuel analytics project, I need to understand the operations of the flights in a granular details. So for that purpose, I need to have a very detailed understanding of their business knowledge or a domain knowledge or subject matter expertise. Those are the technical jargons we use. And I spent the first 2 weeks in the SpiceJet office in Gurgaon, where I interviewed multiple pilots, multiple ground level staffs, multiple engineer, ground staff engineer. So unless unless we do these things, unless we do a kind of unless we gather these things means unless we gather this business knowledge, it's impossible. It's practically impossible to accomplish an analytics project. So I may be a very good data scientist. I may know the algorithms very well. That's a necessary but not sufficient condition because I need to know also what kind of variables I should consider for my project. What's the business context? What variables are the utmost important? Say, for example, uh, for the fuel analytics project, I need to know that uh, whether how much critical it is to taxiing the flight on the runway instead of putting the fuel on. That might consume more fuel, or for that matter, at what point of time the landing gear needs to be pressed. It shouldn't be too early, shouldn't be too late, because in either case, it will consume more fuel. So there are multiple critical factors. Now, unless you have this kind of deep domain knowledge, deep, it is not a kind of surface scratching. unless you have a very deep domain knowledge, it's practically impossible to apply analytics. Analytics is only a tools and technique. I cannot keep admitting the student because every day it rains, and then yeah, that's a distraction, please remember. So is the logic clear why a business understanding is important first? Is the logic clear? If not, ask me now.
Yes, sir.
Perfect.
Yes, clear. Clear, sir.
Okay. Okay. So whatever you're going to accomplish your project, it can be, even I have done for the shipping analytics for that matter, from the aviation to shipping. Again, I need to know, and I did the shipping analytics project in kind of their with the IoT, that is the sensors emit the data, Internet of Things, the sensors emit the data. So I need to understand to a great detail, not to some extent, to a great detail about how the engine of a ship works, because then only I can develop my preventive maintenance or predictive maintenance model. When a component of an engine can fail, if I have to predict that in advance to my algorithm, I need to understand first of all how the engine operates. Without that, just my algorithm will not serve any purpose. My algorithm just cannot be applied. So the very first step is business understanding. Next step is domain data understanding. That's what I was discussing with you, and from there it comes to my mind that yeah, it's very important to make you understand. And to if you want, Kirti Kumari. So what you can do, a very simple thing, you can all Google this Scripps TM model and come to the images. And why I always refer to the images, it's very easy to remember, because text in my slides also will find multiple images. Sometimes in the live classes I show number of videos. uh, so business understanding and data understanding, that's the most critical part. That's where things start. If this is again not done rightly, then again you will embark on a wrong journey. And here I was saying that this takes the maximum amount of time: the data preparation, data messaging, data sanitization, data cleaning, in simple language. Because in any company, any organization, any sector, probability is very high you will get the data that cannot be straight away used for modeling purpose. You need to actually clean the data. Otherwise, a term called GIGO, GIGO, garbage in, garbage out. Otherwise, if you just insert or input the raw data that's been given to you, you will get an output that cannot be interpreted. So data preparation is the most tedious, most critical job. Then the modeling part, where I mentioned all the applicable modelings should be applied, applicable models should be applied. Then it should be validated, and finally it should be deployed. Validated means what? If you know, do you know what is the validation part? What is model validation? Do you know? Yes, no?
No, sir.
Okay, okay.
No, sir.
So what happens is that whenever you get the data, you don't develop the model on all the data. You take a part aside, say 70% or 80% of the data, you develop the model, which we call technically train the model. And the remaining 20% to 30% of the data, whatever the model we develop, we test the model. That's a very important concept: training the model and testing the model. So, no, then only you will understand. Because if you are training the model, keep training the model, there is always a chance of overfitting, right? Your model will behave, or your model will be extremely accurate given the data, or whatever the data you are considering to train the model. But then how will your model behave when it will meet another set of data? It's very important to choose. And finally you deploy. Sometimes it happens, if you are doing a project for a company, company also won't give you complete data. they will keep 30% of data with them and will keep 70% of data, which itself is huge. But then they will intentionally keep 30% of data with them, so that whatever at the end of the day, if you say that my model is 90% accurate or 80% accurate, and they will not just take your words or take your algorithms or the codes as it is. They will take your equation, take your algorithm, and will run that algorithm on the test data or the data they have hold to themselves. And whatever the accuracy it will generate, that's the kind of more realistic measure of how your models perform. That's the meaning of the word validation. So, ladies and gentlemen, whatever model you are going to generate, always ensure that the model is validated. There should be a kind of test data on which the model should be run. Am I clear? Any doubt on this part?
No, sir.
Perfect. Okay, so we were here. We were discussing about this data set. So we are discussing about what the 15 variables are there, about the consumer behavior, and which are the 20 customers or the samples, customer 1, 2, 3, 4, and how they are evaluating each of these 15 statements on a 5-point scale, 5-point Likert scale, where 1 is strongly agree and 5 is strongly disagree. So that's about the data set. And what's the objective? Objective of any segmentation is, can I figure out whether any groups or clusters exist in this data set? That's the kind of objective we are having. So we will not only find out how many groups, how many clusters exist within this 20 segments, within this 20 sample size or 20 number of customers, but also we will figure out the cluster membership. That means this customer 1 belongs to which cluster? Suppose there are 5 clusters or 3 clusters. Is the customer 1 belonging to cluster 2 or cluster 3? That also we are going to figure out. So tell me any question regarding the data and the objective. I clarify 2 things: data and what we are going to accomplish. Any questions here before we start the operations? Any questions? Is it clear? Data understanding is clear and the objective is clear? If not, ask me.
Yes, sir.
It's clear?
Yes, sir.
Okay, great. So now things are very mechanical, I would say. No brain work here. I'm coming to hierarchical clustering, and I have taken the agglomerative schedule. Agglomerative means where you are actually making the things adding up. I shall show you how it's getting done through different kind of diagrams, like dendrogram is one of the diagram. Method, these are the different kind of distance. Remember I was showing you the distance when I was discussing the nearest neighbor. Yeah, at that time in the appendix slides, I've shown the different diagrams of these distances. And these are the different clustering methods. So I'm taking the between the groups linkage. And I shall do this at a later stage. Let's do the first thing first. So ladies and gentlemen, this is called an agglomeration schedule. This shows how the different members of this 20-member group are creating the group among themselves based on similarity. So member number 4 and 5 are joining hands, and then let's go to next stage 4. We will find that with 4 and 5, 3 is joining hands. They are forming a cluster. Let's go to next stage 12. With 4, 5, and 3, we can find number 12 is joining hands. Next stage 14. With 3, we are finding that number 2 is joining hands. Next is 15 with 2, 9 is joining hands. That's how a cluster is getting formed. The other way of interpreting this is through a dendrogram. You can see the same story, right? 4 and 5 are joining hands. With 4, 5, 3 is coming together. With 4, 5, 3, it is the 12, which is coming with it. With 12, this is the 2, 6, and 18 coming together. So that's how the cluster is getting. Now the question is that how many clusters exist? I hope this part is clear, right? Agglomeration schedule is clear that how things are getting formed, how the different samples are getting formed. Now the question is about how many clusters exist. So you look at from here. There are other ways also to do it, like different softwares give different ways to interpret. Like in SAS, it is you will get something called CCC, cubic clustering criteria. SPSS doesn't give that. There is another way is the scree plot. You can map these coefficients and the stages, and wherever there is a kind of elbow bend, you can do it. But there is a kind of other rule of thumb also where you did not do any of the things. You can interpret from agglomeration schedule only. So the simple thing is that these coefficients measure the distance, and wherever you find there is a maximum gap, so you will find that 53 and 56, it is kind of 3 to 4, and then 51 to 53 is kind of 2. But you can find 45 to 51 is quite a gap. 46 is kind of 5 to 6. The gap is between 5 to 6, so that's quite a gap, right? So, but again, the gap decreases. If you look here, the gap decreases. The gap decreases. Okay, so there is the kind of, we look at the lower number between these two numbers, and then this is the third one. So it's a kind of 3 clustered solution is a kind of optimum one. Though there is nothing as such, hard and first in any kind of unsupervised technique that it has to be 3 only, 4 cannot be done, nothing like that. But 3 is a good solution. If you make it 4, 5, you can make it 20 also, right? There are 20 members, each of them are separate clusters. That's possible. But then you will find that the clusters are not significantly different from each other. There are a lot of similarity. Now, this plot is called icicle plot, ICICLE. Icicles, those who share that icicles that are hanging from a cave, like that. It looks like that, these are hanging, these icicles are hanging from the ceiling. So look at this, what the gap has been created, and this is, if it is kind of 2-member, 2-clustered solution, this becomes the part of one group, 1, 14, and 15, and the remaining 2, 6, 2 to 20 becomes a member of another group. If it's a kind of 3-clustered solution, you will find one break here, another break here. So you will find, this guy is forming a group, this guys means 7 to 20 is forming a group, and 16 to 2 is forming another group, and 1 to 15 is forming another group. So that's way, again, you can make it 4 also, right? So you will come here, 1, that means 10 to 20, that is not 10 to 20, 10, 11, 19, 20, then 17, 7 forming another group, then 16 to 8 is forming another group, this guy is forming another group, 2 to 9, and here it is 1 to 15. So that's the way to interpret. Life becomes easier, not that you have to take that much of pain. That's why our eyes are not very accustomed when we take an easier route. The easier route is that if I assume 3-member solution is a good solution for this problem, what we can do is that we come back here again, and we can say here, we can say a single solution, number of clusters is 3. And this is for the cluster membership. So in which particular clusters each of these samples belong to. So if we come back to the data set, we will find that all these 20 members belonging to either of the 3 clusters, 1, 2, or 3. So you are also able to figure out that which particular member is belonging to which kind of or which particular cluster. So that's one thing, but the story doesn't end there. So yesterday, one of you asked me that how could you name this cluster disparate? So I gave a kind of descriptive reason. I have gone through the variables and understand the characteristics of the cluster. So what you have to do as a next stage, which is not a mathematical stage, and that's why I cannot show it here, but we have shown you yesterday in the use case, is that figure out who are these guys falling into cluster number one, and how are they scoring? How are they scoring each of these variables? How are they scoring each of these variables? And then accordingly you describe the nature of the clusters. Is it clear? Any thoughts? Any questions? Is it clear or not? Any questions? Ask me. Any question?
So we can hello.
Yeah, tell me please.
Yeah, sir. Pulkit this side.
Pulkit, please tell me.
Yeah. So sir, we can also use k-mean clustering for all these clusters after.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Sir.
Absolutely. That's not a problem. That's absolutely not a problem. So then of course do that thing. If you know the number of the cluster that is coming after that, you can always just put here, number of clusters 3. If I just do it, I've taken all these variables and number of clusters 3, and I can just do it. Okay, means clustering. And what it would give to me is that how this is the 3 in the initial and the final cluster centers, and how these different variables are scoring in each of these clusters. Yeah, you can do the same thing. It's okay. Of course. Any other questions you're having, folks? Any other question?
No, sir.
Great. So I assume this is clear to all of you. Cluster analysis operations is clear. Now
Yes, sir.
let's perfect. So with that assumption, let me close the chapter of segmentation, and let's move to the realm of recommendation engine. I'm sure all of you are aware of recommendation engine, right? You must have seen it in your Amazon, Flipkart, in any of the e-commerce channels for that matter. Not only e-commerce, even in the Netflix I was discussing maybe yesterday or day before yesterday with Netflix, YouTube. Everyone recommends, right? And you really appreciate that. You really appreciate that if the recommendation is right. Oh, wow, this guy has read my mind. How can they recommend exactly the way I was looking for? This guy is showing exactly what I was, the kind of songs which are really what I prefer. I like to listen, or the movie that I really prefer. They are showing me exactly that thing, right? So that's something the beauty of a recommendation, a good recommendation engine. Yeah. So there are multiple, and the benefits, right? I'm sure that is very clearly very well known to all of you, right? If you show the right recommendations, all things will happen, like your cross sell, upsell, all these things will take place. If the and of course with that the sales, the revenue, uh, that would all go up. So with that introduction, let me quickly come to the algorithms, the critical algorithms of recommendation engine. So the first algorithm of recommendation engine is the content-based recommendation. Now look at this image. I always give the image because that's very easy for you to remember. So you prefer, say for example, a particular type of lager beer, or a strong beer, or a particular type of Coke, whatever. Now, if these two items are similar, there is another lager beer, and if you prefer lager beer, for instance, then if you purchase this one, if these two are similar, then this stuff would be recommended to you. That's how a content-based recommendation work. Same thing holds true. Suppose if you like a kind of all comedy movies, for instance. So if you watch say Gulmal, then maybe the Welcome would be recommended to you. those kind of stuffs. Or Hera Fairy could be recommended to you like that. Similarly, it is not only about the genre of the movie. I gave the example with the genre. It can be with the actors also possible. If you're a Shah Rukh Khan fan, if you keep watching all the Shah Rukh Khan movies, similar Shah Rukh Khan movies will be recommended to you. That kind of stuff. Websites, blogs, news, or recommendations. You must have those who are into not everybody nowadays. Who are using that Google cards, right? In the Google search engine, only in a mobile you can see the Google cards. So depending on whatever you see the content, the similar contents have been recommended to you. If you are more into the say cars, you love cars, whatever the new cars are getting launched, or you are into most in the mobile or the smartphones or the electric gadgets, smartwatches, those things will be recommended to you. The similar stuff will be recommended to you. Is this idea clear? Any doubt, any question about this content-based recommendation? Any question, folks?
No, sir.
Great.
So one question I do have.
Your name, please?
Ashwarya.
Yeah, please go ahead.
So while suggesting the proper precise content, suppose you give the example of Golmaal and
Yeah.
so the example comedy movie example.
True.
Yeah. So can you tell me this where the data actually store? And if I wanted to search some particular content,
Awesome.
so how fast the content will come? So how this recommendation engine works? Because
That's actually a good question and a bad question. Bad, not from the question is bad, but answer is bad. Question is good. So it's of course the cookie level data. Cookie level data gets tracked. That's your answer of your question. The bad part is that many of the times things getting tracked even if you don't give permission. That's the bad part of it. So the answer lies in cookie level data, no doubt about that. So who are you? In fact, I don't know whether you know it or not. Again, since I'm in the industry for a long time, and then you'll be surprised to know. You'll be, I don't know, not pleasantly surprised, I'm sure. You'll be shocked rather to know that all your activities online are getting tracked. All means all. All means even the incognito mode. I'm sorry to say, but that's what it is. There were evidences for that. If you Google it, you will find that what happens or what happened rather, even in incognito modes also, there were evidences getting tracked. So yeah, it's getting tracked through cookie level data. That's the answer is precisely.
so, but there are some engines that do not track information like DuckDuckGo.
Like
DuckDuckGo.com.
okay.
So the recommendation engine works in the same manner for DuckDuckGo or Google?
No. In such scenarios, what happens is that if they don't track the cookie level data, especially the example that you give, that website or the similar kind of websites expects you to register first of all, sign in. Now, once you sign in, you create your profile, correct? Now, if you create your profile, you're already giving a kind of sufficient level of information for them that exactly who you are, what are you looking for, at least some first level of starting the things, and then things move with that. What does that mean? The more then you will say, yeah, I'm liking it, I'm not liking it. The model gets trained with that. That should be a kind of first start, right? It should be either with a cookie data if you don't sign in, or if you sign in, you create your profile in a website. There are way outs. There are way outs for the analysts like us to do away with the cookie level data that I'm going to discuss in the last class. That is on 31st. What are the way outs? We can do analysis what traditionally being done with cookie level data can be done without cookie level data, especially in today's era when a lot of consumers are getting conscious. Their privacy should be respected. In such scenarios, what to do? But have I answered your question that how those websites recommend?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, from your profile, from the profile that you create, and that's one of the reasons. That's one of the reasons most of the websites mandate you to create your profile first to sign in process. or by the string. Okay, so that is the content-based recommendation. The next one is collaborative filtering. Again, remember the image. It is so easy. It is so easy. If you just remember this image, it will be so easy to understand the algorithm. And honestly, what really matters is understanding how the algorithm works. Bucket, you have to call a library. You have to just Google what library to call in R, and you call a library. That's so easy. So how does the algorithm works? These two guys are similar, right? And this guy, why they're similar? They're the sports person, as you can see, right? This guy takes pizza. This guy prefers the salad. This guy prefers a beer, a Coke. These two guys are similar. This guy also, loves having pizza, loves taking the salad. So a beer or a Coke can be recommended to this guy. That's the underlying philosophy of this model. I'm sure everybody's understood. No question about whether you understood it or not. This picture is self-explanatory. I would rather ask you a different question, and an easy question or a difficult question. What do you think is the prerequisite to develop a model, to develop this collaborative filtering model? What do you think is the prerequisite? What you should do first for successfully developing collaborative filtering model?
So look into transactional data.
That's a part of a procedure. You have to, otherwise you cannot. But that's not a prerequisite. Understand my question. I'm not asking what you should do to develop a model. Your answer is what you should do. Yes, you should look at transactional data, no doubt about that. My question is, what's the prerequisite? That means what you should do first before you start developing this collaborative filtering.
So create a group of segmentation basically.
You are absolutely correct. Your name, please?
Ashwarya.
Great. Absolutely correct. Bang on. How will you understand unless you do segmentation? Unless you do segmentation, how will you understand that these two guys belong to the same group? That's why, clubbing, segmentation, recommendation engine, and targeting in this customer acquisition couple of classes that I'm taking. That's the design. And whenever we go to any industry, we develop a kind of solution for them, and we present that, it's better what is pitch, not only present, we create our sales pitch around the solution. We always say that don't do just a segmentation, that because you have to get it work for you, right? So segmentation, recommendation engine, and this target marketing should go hand in hand, and the complete solution has been presented to the client. Yeah, you are absolutely correct. I have to do segmentation first to understand which folks are together. Then only I can apply this particular algorithm. Now, any question about this algorithm? You ask me now before I go to the other examples. Any question about collaborative filtering? I hope you have already read it. I'm not reading it out on your behalf. Any question? Any question on this collaborative?
No, sir.
Perfect.
Sir, I have a question.
Please, your name.
Suppose I'm Kriti Kumari.
Yeah, Kriti, please go ahead.
If these two persons live in a totally different places, will they get the same recommendation? Like one person live in Kashmir or one person live in completely south.
Yeah. So there are lot of other nuances. This is an oversimplification of the model. So if you are considering only one particular dimension to combine the different or diverse profiles, then you are not considering, this is currently has been considered only the food or sorry, candidates we consider only their their hobbies or what kind of lifestyle they are living, that part. Geography has not been considered. If your product portfolio feels that geography is a critical dimension, say the movies of the south and the movies of the north are pretty different, right? If, even within the south, there are so many genres, so many languages. So if those are the scenarios, movies, music, then geography is a very critical part. You cannot just have the high level genre. You have to look at language as well. So yeah, depending on the product portfolio you are recommending, you have to judiciously choose the dimension, and based on the dimension you have to recommend. Am I clear?
Yes.
Okay. Any other questions on collaborative filtering? So Kirti, again, can you repeat that you have to look at the different dimensions which are critical for your product. If it is 1, 2, 3, 5, or 10, if there are a number of them, how will you combine the dimensions? Will you give weights to the dimensions? Will you switch the dimensions? There are multiple ways to play with the dimensions. But yeah, the first step is that what or how many dimensions, what dimensions are critical for your product. So that's a simple, comparison between the collaborative filtering and content filtering. So collaborative is that, yeah, this girl like this dress and the bag like that bought, similar customers. So this dress and the bag can also be recommended to this girl or to this lady. And these are kind of content filtering, liked and bought, recommend products based on similar products or items. These are similar products, similar kind of bag, similar kind of dress, and therefore recommend it. That's the content filtering. Again, the same thing from a context of a movie recommendation, like collaborative filtering watched by both users, action genre, for instance, then watched by her, recommend to him, is a kind of similar user. And content-based filtering, say the comedy genre, similar movie, recommend this to him. So that's how collaborative filtering and content-based filtering work. Now let's make it a bit more complex. These are the two approaches of collaborative filtering. What are the two approaches? First one is the user-based filtering. So this is the first user, for instance. This user likes and purchases grapes, strawberry, watermelon, and orange, for instance. Now, this user 2 is liking and purchasing strawberry. And user 3, who is similar to user 1, is purchasing strawberry and melon. Now, since these two are similar, these two users are similar, this grape and the orange can be recommended to user 3. That's the user-based filtering. There can also be item-based filtering. What is the item-based collaborative filtering? It is like that. User is here, user is liking or preferring purchasing the grape, watermelon, and the orange. User 2 is grape, watermelon, and user 3 is liking watermelon. Some we have got the a priori knowledge that fruit or item A and item C are similar. This person has already purchased item C, so that item A can be recommended to user 3. Any doubt, any question on this one?
So, is there a number of attributes so that recommendation engine could work or give precise data? Like,
The more the better. The more the better. Always. Any other
So could you
question?
explain item-based filtering once more?
Sure, sure. Your name, please?
Ambrishan, sir.
Yeah. So item based, instead of user similarity, it is the item similarity, right? So user 1 purchases item A, item C, item D, correct? User 2 is purchasing item A and item C. User 3 is purchasing only item C, right? This is the arrow. Now we have found these two items are similar. So you can recommend this item also to user C, user 3, item A also to user C.
Okay.
Any other questions, gentlemen, ladies? Okay, if not, let's move on. Life is not so simple as it looks, apparently. So none of the recommendation engine that you see works on one recommendation engine. In fact, life is far more complex than what I'm showing to you now. And there are a lot of deep learning techniques. Those who have got further interest in understanding or developing, I shall share the paper. And this is the paper, how YouTube recommendation engine works, and written by folks who are working in Google industry, Google company. And not that you have to read it, but those who have got special interest, they want to develop a recommendation engine, they must go through it. And feel free to drop me a mail if you don't understand any part of this paper. This is pretty advanced paper, pretty advanced, not meant to be taught in the class. So that's why it has not been considered for teaching in the class, but those who have got special interest to develop engine and understand in detail, I shall mail it to Akriti, and Akriti will share it with the class. They can go through it. Yeah. But let's focus here. Life is not that simple as it looks. So it is not only about content-based filtering or collaborative filtering. It's actually far more than that. So besides content-based and collaborative, we also consider something called a knowledge-based recommender, which also looks at the context, at the time, what is going on in the environment. Environment means political environment, social environment, different other dimensions, which is beyond beyond what has been captured in the cookie level or the user profile data. Those are the kind of knowledge-based recommender. So they consider knowledge-based, content-based, collaborative filtering, combine them, and then recommend. That's most of the engines you will see are hybrid, and there are multiple ways to combine. As I was discussing with, I think if you're somebody asked me the question, if there are 2 dimensions, how to do it? It can be n number of dimensions, and there are ways. Not only ways to recommend, but also to rank. In YouTube, you can see the movies are ranked, right? Recommendation actually been ranked, like which movie, which not only movie, which songs, which music. In Netflix is the movies that all been ranked. So how to rank them, right? Weighted, switching, mixed, feature combination, cascading, feature augmentation, meta level. So these are the different ways to combine the recommendations from the different engines. This is again a hybrid filtering model with ML multiplier. What happens is that from data set of 1, 2, 3, you are making a record 1 for this old customer. You find a new customer. So you are again generating the new customer. Now new customer is also generating data, right? Views, likes, rating, purchases. So you are again, coming to the level of recommendation 2. And again, a very important part is that this surprise element. You don't always like to see the same things time and again, because if you are just going into that what other person like or what you have liked at past, then you are into that loop only, right? So what are the new surprise element you can consider? And you can see such applications many a times. Those who are very frequent with the Google cards, they will see that if they sometimes bring a new genre of news, new type of news, and then they ask a question: is this card relevant to you? Yes, no. So that surprise element they want to bring into the algorithm. If you say yes, the model gets trained further with that element. If you are saying no, then the model removes it. So that's how things get actually very interesting in a real life scenario. But that's the basics of a recommendation engine, how it works. So with that note, I shall close the recommendation engine part. Any question on recommendation engine?
So I'm sorry, asking one more question.
No. Why do you feel sorry? Please feel free to ask. As many questions as you want. What's your name, please?
Sir Ashwarya.
Yeah, Ashwarya, go ahead.
So, in YouTube, Instagram, what people do is to increase the rating, they buy fake profiles. So, how does recommendation identify between the real profiles and fake profiles?
Another algorithm. There are different algorithms for that. So that is typically, you can Google by yourself also. Let me also name it. Knife-based algorithms are there. Multiple other algorithms are there. So all these, algorithms run parallelly. They complement each other. Yeah, that is true for even the fake news, fake profiles. These algorithms have been applied. Spam from a ham. You can just Google it. Spam ham knife-based. Let me show you right away. It'll take a minute. Spam ham classifier. Knife based. I told you. Look. Knife based. Can you see my screen, Aishwarya?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Read this, and not only read. Participate in these Kaggle competitions. If you those who are real serious about the career, because I always ask in my interview, show me what you have done. How many hackathons have you competed for? What are your ranks there? Have you won any hackathons? And not only restrict yourself to India only. Go outside the country. So next to hackathon, I have been invited as a judge is in Malta, but it will happen from Austria only. They will conduct from 13th to 15th November. Blockchain and AI hackathon THO.0. I shall be a mentor and a judge. You can participate if you want. Yeah. Like that, everyone in across the globe it is taking place. So you can always participate in whatever you want. Okay, folks. Any other questions on recommendation engine? But that's a good question. Thank you for asking. Any other question on recommendation engine before I shift or switch to the target marketing part? I mean, a very interesting game. Any questions, any thoughts, observations, views, perspectives, comments? Let's move to target marketing then. I shall share all this deck with Akriti, so you will get them. No worries. Okay. Now, again, the same thing. You have to always, stitch these things together. These things are not in isolation, mind it. Though the algorithms are different, but they're all part of a complete solution framework. So we have done the segmentation. We have seen that how that segmentation knowledge is relevant for the recommendation engine. Now, what's the ultimate goal of doing all those things? Customer should purchase, right? That's the most important part. Customer should purchase. Now, the question is that what's the probability that the customer will purchase? How sure you are that the customer will purchase the product that you are recommending? So that's how this teaching comes from the previous one with recommendation engine with the target marketing. How sure you are. So primarily two things we will learn here. Have you done some kind of homework? Have you studied? Homework means self-study. I already told you I'm going to teach you these things. Have you studied by yourself? Propensity modeling and uplift modeling? Yes, no? Yes, no?
Sir, a bit.
Can you throw some light? What you have? Your name, please?
Sir, Ashwarya.
And why only 1, 2, or 3 maximum, or 4, not more than that? That's not a good sign, honestly. That's not a good sign. It's a very polite way to express anyway. What have you understood? Even if you have not understood completely, can you share with the class what you understood?
Sir, propensity model is a statistical tool. Based on the consumer profile, it gives information about whether the consumer will buy the product or not.
Precisely. Your understanding is absolutely correct. Yeah.
Sir, Reshma here.
Yeah,
So,
Reshma, go ahead.
so propensity modeling, what I understood is to actually make the accurate predictions for the future behavior, like what the customers will think about it and how, depending on their behavior, we are predicting using that model.
Predicting what? What are you predicting? What is the objective?
Like what is the consideration that the customer will take while buying a product? What are the factors, depending upon how they are behaving, we'll get to know like what are the factors that has been involved.
I'm not drilling you, but I just want to understand it much more precisely. Tell me more precisely that what for propensity modeling should be used. What is the final goal?
Sir, based
No,
on
no,
other
let respond, sir, please. Please hold on.
Sir, to understand the different purchase behavior of people.
Are you not understanding this very high level? Understand purchase behavior. If you just take these 3 words, these 3 words are, the crux of your sentence that you created. Understand purchase behavior is a very broad, high level, fluid, imprecise statement.
Okay.
Are you getting me? Are you realizing it?
Yes, sir.
Understand consumer behavior is very vague. Consumer will fly a kite also. That's not the point.
Okay.
Consumer can do so many things. What they will consider, you mentioned the word consideration also in your previous, statement.
Okay.
In research or analytics, all of you please remember, you have to think in terms of variables. Otherwise, you will miss the boat. Precision is the key of thinking. To bring you back to the track, Reshmi, it is purchase likelihood. That's the most important. You are predicting how likely the consumer is going to purchase your product, as precise as that. How likely they are going to purchase your product. Nothing more, nothing less.
Okay.
For that purpose, you consider several factors which are representative of consumer behavior. That's a separate issue altogether. But what is the objective? Objective is very precise. What is the probability that the consumer is going to purchase your product? Am I clear? Reshma?
Yes, sir. Now, sir.
Okay, great. Somebody was also saying something when I got another gentleman.
yes, sir. This is
Yeah, go ahead.
Sir, propensity modeling, I think it's based on recommending products based on other, like for example, if a customer bought 3 products, like for example, an Orbit chewing gum, moisturizer and the shampoo.
Yeah.
And another customer is purchasing a moisturizer and the shampoo. So maybe recommending Orbit based on the other person's purchase. I think that is propensity modeling. Am I right, sir?
No, you are not. That we already covered in recommendation engine. You were there, right, when I discussed recommendation engine? That, are you sure you were there, right?
Yes,
you
sir.
just gave the same example what I discussed in recommendation engine. That's not recommendation engine. Propensity modeling is that once you are recommending something, but on what is the kind of probability? What is the probability that the person is going to purchase it or consider it? It can be several propensity. Propensity need not necessarily be purchased. That could be one argument. A propensity to engage. That could be another propensity you can do. Propensity to response to promotion. Remember, I was teaching you PRM, promotion response modeling. That's a propensity to response, possible propensity to purchase. But it finally boils down to a probability of an event that is going to take place at the customer's end. And that's why this has been done through boosted regression. Boosted means all these gradient boosting, extreme gradient boosting, which are part of your ensemble models, Bayesian trees, random forest, and done to know how likely a person is to engage under which circumstances, and helps focusing the resources and efforts on the individuals for whom engagement will generate a substantial revenue. That means person is going to purchase or not, and allows to target them with very specific personalized products, messages, and offers to give them the nudge they need to pull the trigger. Now, what does that mean? What it means that suppose you are finding after propensity modeling, before propensity modeling, look at this diagram. Before propensity modeling, all look like the same. Like now you are doing kind of blanket marketing communication efforts to all the prospects. It doesn't make much sense. Why it doesn't make much sense? Because these guys have got a very high probability to purchase. This guy's probability of purchase is medium. This guy's probability of purchase is low. So the amount of promotion, the amount of discount, or the type of promotions you are going to do for this low propensity should ideally vary with the medium and should be different from the high propensity. Maybe you can give them, maybe these guys might not require any discounts for that matter, or even if you want to give them, that should be substantially small because they will in any case going to purchase. They may require some more discounts. These guys might require some serious pampering to make them purchase. Am I clear with this propensity modeling part?
Yes, sir.
So what is going to be the dependent variable for this model? Who is going to tell me? Quick, real fast. I've got hardly 12 minutes, 13 minutes. What's the dependent variable? You know there could be kind of dependent variable, right? I mentioned boosted regression, decision tree, random forest, ensembles. What should be the dependent variable? Quick.
Dependent is the purchase, right?
True, but think further deep.
So marketing campaign such as email marketing.
That's not a dependent variable. These are all the stimulus. Stimulus cannot be a dependent variable. These are all independent. These are all factors. Factors that make, that tantalize or that excite a customer, that stimulate a customer to purchase. Dependence definitely on the purchase, but then what more? Think some more deep.
Discounts?
No, discount cannot be a dependent. You understand the meaning of dependent or not? Don't just throw the words. Tell me very frankly, who has answered the last part? Last answer. Name, please.
Afsia, sir.
Sorry? No. The last person who answered this question, the lady.
Afsia, sir.
Afsia, what does dependent variable and what does independent variable mean?
Hello, sir.
Yeah. Was I not audible? My question was, what does dependent variable mean and what does independent variable mean?
So actually, dependent variable is the one.
Is there one? Go ahead, my friend. I can't hear you. Could you please repeat yourself? I hope I'm audible to you, all of you, right?
Yes, sir.
So yeah, my friend who was discussing with me.
So can you hear me? Hello?
Yeah, please go ahead. Please go ahead. Please repeat yourself.
Yes, sir. Dependent variable is the one which is dependent on the other factors. Okay.
Correct.
Independent.
Correct. Fair enough. So discount you mentioned, is discount depend on other factors?
Certain decision making, maybe it will. You told that what stimulates the person to purchase or do
Correct.
something, right?
Correct. Then now you just put the right words in the sentence that you framed. What stimulates a person to take a decision? Correct. So what
Yes.
is the dependent one?
Needs.
Decision.
Okay, decision. Yeah.
Person is taking a decision to purchase this. That's the phenomena. What stimulates the person? The discount. So what is independent and what is dependent? Purchase is dependent, right?
Yes, sir.
And independent is the discount. That is the kind of
Discount.
stimulus.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
response is the purchase.
Okay, sir.
Always remember, purchase, sales, these are all the dependent. And all these marketing stimuli, marketing factors, these are all the independent variables. Now, let's come back to the question that I asked. Always this kind of problems has got a kind of binary dependent variable. Binary means that's what we did in logistic regression, like churn, not churn. Similarly, purchased, not purchased. You should have given me that answer. Purchased, not purchased, binary dependent variable. Don't just say purchase. Purchased, not purchased. You have got several independent variables for both purchase scenario and for not purchase scenario. Then only you can create a model, develop a model. That's the way we did for the churn. Same thing. I need not, if I have to show you, have to just change the name of the variable from churn, not churn to purchase, not purchase. Same thing. The modeling scenario will remain the same. I hope I'm clear, right?
Yes, sir.
Perfect. Then the uplift modeling part. Now, hold on. This part I shall come a little later. Let me quickly discuss the concept of campaign performance. So campaign performance is mostly being judged by a concept called lift. Now, what is lift? To understand that thing, what we do generally is then we divide this target group randomly into two groups, 70%, 30%. And the larger group, 70%, we call it a kind of treatment sample, and the 30% we call it a control sample. And from the very name, it is understood, right? In the treatment sample, we give the treatment. What kind of treatment? Like email, SMS. These are the kind of treatment, the marketing stimuli we give to the treatment group. And in the control group, this kind of treatment are not given. No email, no SMS. Now we then give treated customers, that means persons whom we have sent the email or SMS, around say 3 to 4 weeks time. Even it depends on the product. If it is a car, like one has to take some more time to decide, then we give some more time to take the intended action. And then compare the performance of the two groups in terms of the activation rate. Is the concept clear? Treatment sample, control sample. Treatment, I'm giving all the treatments like email, SMS, discounts, promotions, advertisements. Control group, nothing. And then we see that within the treatment group, whether the folks are purchasing or not. Why? Why do we see it? I could have asked the question. In the interest of time, I'm just skipping the question part. Let me walk you to the slide. Say, let's take an example of lift. So treatment response rate is 14%, for example, and control response rate is 12%. So here in this group, I've given those stimulus. Here I have not given any stimuli. So lift is nothing but the difference between the two. 14 minus 12 is 2%. So what does it mean? It means that control response tells how many customers would have gotten activated irrespective of the campaign. Even if there is no campaign, this 12% would have purchased. And the treatment response is 14% tells you how many additional customers, which is the lift 2%, additional is the 2%, got activated due to the campaign. Higher the lift, better the campaign and higher the ROI. Is this story clear? Is this story clear? What is lift and why it is important? Is this story clear?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Perfect.
Yes, sir.
Now let's again come back to the propensity model. The limitation of propensity model. Propensity model will tell you that what is the probability of purchase given that purchased and non-purchased binary dependent variable. But that will never tell you that what is the lift. It doesn't tell you anything about the lift that the customer will have when targeted. That's the limitation of propensity model. And we want customers who will go from response rates of 10%, 30%, and not 90 to 92. That doesn't really matter. So uplift models help us to predict the lift for each customer and then empowers us to target only the high lift customers. So how does it happen? And that was there, same thing. The same diagram was I've given it here. Buy if don't receive an offer, yes, no. And buy do if receive an offer, yes, no. Buy if don't receive an offer, and buy if receive an offer, yes, yes, sure things that in any case going to purchase. Persuadables, buy if they don't receive an offer. If they don't receive an offer, they will not buy. And if they receive an offer, they will. So you must send them a kind of promotional discounts, then they will purchase. No point. The lost causes, no point in pursuing them. And do not disturb are very interesting, a very interesting group. They will buy if to receive an offer? No, they will not purchase if they receive an offer. So therefore, and if they don't receive an offer, they will buy. So don't disturb them. So that's something very important or interesting. This is what response if treated, response if not treated. That's what I have shown here in this slide. So persuadable, sure thing, lost clause, lost cause, and do not disturb. A quick kind of description among these four terms. Persuadable, who only respond to the marketing action because they were targeted. So these folks are special interest to you because they will only purchase if they get the discount. The sure things, they in any case who would have responded whether they were targeted or not, whether they will get a discount or not get a discount, they will in any case will purchase. The lost causes will not respond irrespective of whether or not they are targeted. And do not disturb are very interesting. Well, less likely to respond because they are targeted. If you don't target them, they will be more happy and they will purchase. So that's what comes out of your uplift modeling. That's the beauty of uplift modeling. While propensity modeling cannot go to this extent. I hope I'm clear in uplift modeling.
So, is there any example of do not disturb kind of customers?
I generally don't say this, but let me tell you, the person who is sitting in front of you, that means I am a do not disturb customer. I don't like, because I'm a very individualistic person. I don't like if somebody gives me a discount and then only I should purchase. I know very well what I'm supposed to purchase and what I'm not. And irrespective of discount, rather, if I see that this person is after me to sell something, I always see that there must be kind of, some other reason, which might be I'm not sure, and therefore let me stop purchasing. But otherwise, folks, there is a segment who are very conscious. They are very clear what they want in life, what products they want, what products they need, what do they need, what kind of services. They are very clear. You need not promote them. You just feature the value in general advertisements. Target them, and they will just absorb the product, suck the product in the market. Product is it clear?
Yes, sir.
Any other question on target marketing? Not only about uplift modeling, any other question on target marketing? Okay, so if you don't have any question, I shall stop the class for today. Wish you all the best. Tomorrow we are going to come with sales forecasting. Have you got any exposure at past about sales forecasting? Have you done any kind of ARIMA models, time series models? Is it been done ever? If not, we can start from there. If yes, then we will skip that and we'll do something more interesting.
No, sir, we have not.
You have not. Then I
No,
should start with seasonality and the time series models, and then we'll move further. Okay, so I'm going to share the decks. I'm going to share that paper also, YouTube paper with you, written by the Google folks. Read them. If you have any question, do come back to me. Feel free to drop me a mail. I shall be glad to reply. Wish you all the best. Have a great day. Bye-bye.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Welcome.
Thank you, sir.